Learning is not stealing. So last week, as I was composing a post about AI on my Mixerman Facebook page, this news dropped in Wired. Quote, a group of music labels, including Universal Music Group, Warner Music Group, and Sony Music Group, has filed lawsuits in U.S. federal court on Monday morning, alleging copyright infringement on a massive scale. The plaintiffs seek damages up to $150,000 per work infringed. End quote. Further along in the article, quote, in the complaints, the music labels state that they were independently able to prompt Suno into producing outputs that match copyrighted work. End quote. Okay. First of all, $150,000 per work infringed are statutory damages. That's what you sue for when someone steals your work but didn't make sufficient monies to warrant damages, which is an important part of Title 17 copyright law because it prevents people from infringing with impunity first and then paying later only if their efforts were successful. There's a very good reason why the labels are suing for statutory damages. There are no actual monetary damages in this case. From The Verge, quote, one song generated by Suno, titled Deep Down in Louisiana Close to the New Oral, replicates the lyrics and style of Johnny B. Good by Chuck Berry. Another song, called Prancing Queen, generated using the prompt 70s pop, contains lyrics to Dancing Queen by ABBA and sounds remarkably like the band. So this one's going to require some unpacking. First, I can blatantly steal from existing records in my songs and it doesn't qualify as infringement until I publish it, which means to release it publicly. Publishing the work is a critical component to infringement. If it merely exists on my computer and in my home, then it doesn't constitute infringement. When you create a song on Suno or Udio, it's a private creation until you decide to publish it, which then makes it publicly available. Without publishing, there is no infringement. I can also record and produce cover songs, and it's not infringement, unless I publish the work first without obtaining a compulsory license from the Harry Fox Agency. The compulsory license allows me to pay the copyright holder at a statutory rate for each sale of my cover. I can also write parody songs all day long, and I can publish them with permission from the copyright holder. Fair use also comes into play here, but again, unless I publish the parody song, there could be no claim of infringement. So you see the major problem here, right? The major labels in this scenario went out of their way to prompt Suno and Udio to produce what they deemed an infringing song, and apparently even fed it lyrics to help it do it. And given the hit-or-miss nature of how Suno and Udio work, it may have taken them a ridiculous number of attempts to come up with something that they could claim sounded infringy. And yes, I know that infringy is not a word. Thank you. So, if the majors chose to publish that work, then they would be the actual infringer here. And if they didn't publish it, then there was no infringement in the first place. And while the producer of an infringing work can certainly be named in an infringement suit, they have to be a part of the publishing of the work in order to be held accountable. Merely producing it isn't enough. That's what indemnification clauses are for in producers' contracts. So let's break down everyone's role in this. The major labels are suing as the copyright holders of the work. Suno is ostensibly the producer of the works, and the major labels are also the infringers, if they actually publish the work, and are now suing the producer of the infringing work that they purposely created. Let me put that more simply. The infringer is also the copyright holder and is trying to hold the producer accountable for what they did to themselves. On what planet does that make any sense? And then there's the whole issue of infringement being in the ear of the beholder. A song can sound similar to another song, and that doesn't necessarily constitute infringement. That's ultimately for a jury to decide. You can only copyright two things, lyric and melody. style and chord progressions aren't protected. And don't even get me started on the atrocious blurred lines verdict. That was a bad verdict. So, if the major labels fed Suno infringing lyrics, then wouldn't they be the ones breaking the terms of service? And therefore, wouldn't they be the sole infringers here? Of course, this suit is not about copyright infringement. That's a ruse. There is no case for that. Certainly not in the instances where they were the actual infringers, because you really can't infringe against yourself. And if they didn't hit publish, there was no infringement either. So the case is moot either way. And I wouldn't be surprised if the lawsuit's dismissed on the first day. No. This is about something else entirely. This is about the majors getting the AI companies, Suno and Udio in this case, to reveal their methods of training their AI. And they're suing so as to use the discovery process to do it. I present to you Exhibits A, B, and C. Exhibit A. Mitch Glaser, CEO of the RIAA, said in a press release, quote, "Unlicensed services like Suno and Udio that claim it's fair to copy an artist's life's work and exploit it for their own profit without consent or pay set back the promise of genuinely innovative AI for us all." Right. Of course, they aren't copying an artist's work. The AI is learning music, in particular music that people like. They're listening to all music. I mean, I have nothing against the RIAA, but that comment is misleading and outright wrong. Next exhibit, B, from the Washington Post. Quote, "Generative AI tools like chatbots, image generators, and song generators are built by ingesting huge amounts of human-created content. The record companies allege that Suno and Udio used songs they didn't have the rights to when they trained their algorithms." Okay, this one confuses me. If I stream music, then it's paid for. The AI is merely listening. So how does one make the argument that Suno and Udio are doing anything other than playing paid music in the presence of their AI in order for it to learn from it? Exhibit C from Wired. Quote, "Many leading generative AI companies are under intense scrutiny for how they train their tools." End quote. Indeed. The major labels want to force the AI companies into first admitting that they train their AI with copyrighted works, so that they can then turn around and make the case that the AI companies should have to license their entire catalog for the purposes of training the AI. Okay, so this wouldn't change infringement laws, and in fact, the settlement wouldn't produce new law either. So if the AI companies were to acquiesce to the majors, there's going to be suits coming from other smaller record companies and other individual artists. And then what of new AI companies that emerge, who have no such agreement with anyone? If someone, a person, produces an infringing work with Suno, that person can still be sued. The majors basically want the producers, the AI companies, to license their entire catalog as a way to indemnify themselves from their role in any possible future infringements. It's kind of like when the mob comes to your business and offers you protection. Finally, there's this gem from Wired. Quote, "This canon should be achieved through the well-established mechanism of free market licensing that ensures proper respect for copyright owners." End quote. There's the crux of it all right there. The majors want a piece of the action, and frankly, I don't think they're entitled to it because none of that money will actually reach the songwriters or the artists. There's no mechanism in existing contracts going back many decades that takes into account this scenario. The labels will get all the licensing monies, and the beneficiaries will be the major label corporations and their stockholders, and that's it. The more information that we feed our AI, the more likely the AI is to create unique works, and the more you would have to dilute the pool of money for the artists that the RIAA and the major labels are purportedly trying to protect. So to require licensing by the AI companies will only cost the consumer money, which will pay the major labels for a catalog that is so vast, it already covers every music musical possibility there is, or at least close to it. AI learns music precisely the way humans learn music. It listens. If you feed AI everything, then AI isn't stealing from anyone in particular. It's evaluating patterns and determining what people like based on those patterns. If, on the other hand, we don't feed AI all our works, then AI can't learn what we like, and it can't figure out the techniques that would make it good at making music. And one could argue it's more likely to infringe. Conversely, if we only feed AI works from the public domain, then AI is only going to spit out music that sounds like it was written 100 years ago. Of what use is that? To suggest that AI is stealing from all artists in history by merely listening to music would be to suggest that any human who writes a song that is even remotely accessible is stealing from all artists in history. This is kind of a given. We accept that reality where it comes to humans. There's only 12 notes. We all build on what came before us where it comes to the music. It's an incremental process. We all write the same themes in our lyrics, and we all use similar rhyme combinations. Fire, desire. And we touch on similar melodies. To allow AI to listen to music can't and shouldn't be deemed infringement in and of itself. Listening and learning are not stealing. Mimicking good songwriting techniques isn't stealing. Stealing is stealing. Even if you don't buy my arguments, even if you believe that to feed AI copyrighted music should be considered infringement and should require a license so as to enrich the major labels and nobody else, it would be a colossal error, an own goal, as it were, to prevent U.S. companies from training their AI with all our available U.S. works, copyrighted or otherwise. If we hamstring our AI companies from feeding it everything that our own artists have ever produced, then we are allowing countries like China and Russia to do it first. That, my friends, can't happen. We cannot allow the bad actors in the world, who already steal our creative works with impunity, to have the upper hand in training AI with the very works they already steal. As if that's not bad enough, these despot-led countries will then turn around and sell the fruits of our collective labor right back to us through their powerfully developed AI creation tools. You want the countries that already steal our work to have the upper hand in technology that's both powerful and inevitable? Again, in what world does that make any sense? There is nothing truly original. I would say that copyright can't even survive the amount of material that is going to be generated in the coming years. At some point, you can't produce something that doesn't infringe within a 12-note scale, and we're coming very close to that point. This is true whether we allow our AI companies to feed it existing copyrighted materials or whether we allow China to do it first. AI-generated music and AI music-making tools are going to happen. So everyone needs to see the bigger picture here. This is all a money grab. The major labels do not give a fuck about you or your creations, nor the creations of their own artist catalog. They aren't trying to protect any creation in particular. They want to collect money on the backs of all creators, which really is the same as what the AI companies want to do, right? Meet the old boss, same as the new boss. Yet somehow this is unacceptable. So the majors are making a play at a money grab for themselves based on the false idea that any music that's worth listening to is somehow purely original. The freakout is real. But what's the solution? The solution certainly isn't for one corporation to pay another corporation for the right to learn from the human consciousness of art. That doesn't protect anyone. The solution here is for Congress and other governments to come up with the rules of the road, particularly where AI learning is concerned, and how we're all going to get paid as our ability to actually work dwindles. Unfortunately, there's no hope for that happening because it's beyond our political capabilities at this time, which is why there's really no stopping it. The status quo shall prevail. By the time a government or a judicial system decides to tell the AI companies no, the AI will already have learned what it needs to learn, and there's no putting that genie back in the bottle once it happens. I'm telling you, things are going to get interesting, perhaps crazy. Brace yourselves. Enjoy. Mixerman.